Alright, so hey, I'm here. I'm gonna make my first project for YouTube here. Something pretty simple. A little mixer for a bowl, or a little glass jar that I'm working on, and thought I'd do a little carving on it, make it out of some blank wood I found on the side of the road down the street. So here's the jar that I'm making this whisk for. You can see right here, I just got to get it in there so I can stir this stuff up, and here's the pattern for the whisk itself. So here's a small chainsaw I picked up from Harbor Freight. I picked this up just to get the logs to a manageable size for my bandsaw to be used. And also a hatchet I picked up from there, so I'm just finishing a split here. And making the first square cut on this log to get everything nice and square to work with. Nice. So I've got my bandsaw here that I've mounted with a nice resaw blade, and this thing worked pretty good for the first go around. I was pretty impressed how much of a difference it made to have a nice dedicated resaw blade in your band. Once I got this board cut out on the bandsaw with the resaw blade, I went back and put this on the table saw and squared everything up nicely. I don't have a jointer, but this got it pretty square for what I was going to be doing in the future. Here I'm marking out my patterns so that I can mount these on the block. And I'm using some 3M77 here to adhere the patterns on both sides and getting everything nice and lined up and making sure to take my time there to get everything nicely aligned. So here you can see I'm using my bandsaw. This time I've got a more general purpose blade, and it's in order to get these curves nice and snug against the line here. Now I'm using my drill press to get a couple holes in here in the center part of the whisk so that I can put a scroll saw blade through here and do some cutting on it. As you can see here, my problem is I'm not basing my cuts here off of the pattern, which is mounted on the opposite flat side, and this comes back to bite me later. Been doing some jigsawing, getting there. Obviously it's not symmetric, so kind of sad. This area here got blown out too much because I had the pattern on the opposite side, but I'm gonna try and square this thing up and see what we can do about some symmetry, and do some finish sanding on the drum sander that I've got set up over here on my drill press. So we're gonna give that a go. I've always appreciated a nice spindle sander, and since I don't have one in my shop yet, this is my alternative at the moment. I've got a board that I can mount on the bottom of this to help with the spindle sander support, but really in this situation freestanding was good enough. Now that I got everything nice and roughed out on the drum sander, I'm going back and finishing in the details and trying to round out each of the prongs on the whisk with this Dremel here. I just finished the whisk here, not too bad. You can see, turned out pretty well. Not symmetric in one way, symmetric in the other, so got close, not too bad. Just a little more care cutting out the pattern initially would have turned out well, but as you can see, it not too bad. That actually makes it better as a whisk because when you turn it, as you can see, it picks up the different areas. So yeah, pretty good overall, pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna keep working on projects like this and see what I can come up with next. My wife's happy with it, works well. I did not show the finished product or how I finished this thing. Did lots of sanding and whatnot with high grit sandpaper, and then finished it with some oil. I actually used mineral oil, so that works well. And when this gets used in food, then totally food safe. So pretty awesome, pretty happy with it, and yeah, stay tuned for more. Thanks.